Welcome to the 10th and final episode of this summer's limited podcast series, 100 Days of Mothman, brought to you by the Caffeinated Cryptid Podcast Network. All summer long, we dove deep with eyewitnesses, paranormal researchers, scientists, and filmmakers to explore the mystery, madness, and the legacy of the Mothman. You can watch the full videos on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and several other of your favorite audio apps. Or catch the whole series anytime at Mothman100.com. Now, here's lifelong Point Pleasant resident, the owner of the Mothman Museum and the literal figurehead of all things Mothman. And he's also one heck of a great guy to talk to. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this final episode rolling. Here's Jeff Wamsley. You had to be like 6 years old when that bridge collapsed.
Yeah, I was sick. I was 6 years old.
What was the attitude around there when that happened? Like, what do you remember
About the bridge, you mean?
Yeah, when you were that age, it's like how.
Well, it's hard to remember because I was only six. I remember, when it fell, I was in the basement. I was in the basement at our house about 3-4 miles away. My mother still lives in the same house even today, but I remember the whole house just shook.
Really?
And I thought it was a sonic boom or thunder or something like that. When then I realized, well, it's December. Why would it be thundering? But it was actually the bridge, falling and stuff. So my dad came downstairs. My mom and my aunt, they had went to Huntington, West Virginia. Was supposed to come back on the Ohio side and cross. So no cell phones, no way to communicate or anything. So I can imagine what my dad felt like. But I guess that we went downtown, but, talked to other people my age that remembered everything, going downtown and stuff. But I just remember hearing that big boom.
That's funny you said no thunder in December because here in Alabama, that's a tornado season.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's what I do remember about it. The next day, my dad went downtown with his 8mm camera and stood up on the flood wall and took home movies, which I have all of those and stuff.
Oh yeah, you got it in your book there.
Yeah, I don't know if any of the film footage is in there, but there's sections about the bridge collapse in there. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the one from like the 16th. There's tons of pictures from the 16th in there.
Yeah. And then that was the day after, but. It was a bad time, for everybody. It wasn't everybody still remembers it, this many years later. So
you had to have, it was a Friday night, so you had to have just gotten home from school, or unless it was already Christmas break.
15th, we were probably still in school, I would say. Yeah. I would have been, I don't even think that I was in school yet. Maybe kindergarten.
Yeah, you'd have been little.
Yeah.
I just remember when I was little, that age, hearing about someone passing away or something happened and how it felt. Like you didn't really know how to feel.
Yeah, I know.
You just knew something was off.
Well, yeah, you could see your family's reactions and stuff like that. But I don't remember a whole lot about it though. Other than just my dad and my mom talking about it and stuff like that. My mom's uncle, he was on it. He didn't survive. Okay.
So, there was a Steve Ward mentioned it to me about a relative of yours that had a sighting just prior to the event happening. And it was, I guess, I'm thinking it was your Uncle Robert, or it was Marcella Bennett's Uncle Robert.
Yeah, but that was not directly related to me. Her maiden name was Wamsley.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. Are you related to them?
No. That's I get asked that about every week, but there was 2 sets of Wamsleys, and there still is, but there was no really direct relation. And there was a Marvin Wamsley who was killed on the bridge. There was a Robert Wamsley or Frank Wamsley who survived the bridge, but neither one of them was related directly to my family. But it's the same name,
Talk about all the coincidences in the world when it comes to that, like you being like the guru of all things Mothman and stuff, and the people with your name aren't related to you.
Yeah, they think that I had a direct correlation to that and everything, but Marcella, like I said, her maiden name was Wamsley. There was 2 separate clans here in Point Pleasant. There was actually, when I was in school, there were 3 Jeff Wamsleys, and that was kind of confusing. So, yeah, that got awkward at times. So
I bet it does, because that was one of the things, just studying through it every once in a while, every other paragraph, here come a Wamsley. It's like, man, they are in the DNA up there, man.
Right. But yeah, and there's still a lot of Wamsleys here. Most people mispronounce it and say Wamsley, but you got it right, so that's good.
I have done my homework, sir. As much as a C student can.
Yeah.
Plus you're on the 2 Seth Breedlove documentary, so it's not hard to.
Right. Yeah. We did those, and we've done a lot of different shows over the past 20 years and stuff. So, and we continue to do them. So,
you seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean it's it's a hectic. It's hectic with the museum and the stores that we have and things like that. But we have a Japanese film crew coming in July, I think. They had emailed me the other day.
Do you still have the record stores?
I do not. I have a store now, a sister store to the museum called Bunker 304, which is patterned a lot like Criminal Records. Okay, I had the Criminal Record stores back in 89 through 2002, something like that, when Napster came along.
Napster.
Yeah, Napster kind of put the squat on that. But we opened Bunker 304 about 4 years ago. We carry, band merchandise, but a lot of Mothman stuff, used vinyl, things like that. So my daughter, she helped me set that store up. And of course she said, "This is just Criminal Records all over again." I'm like, well, so be it, whatever.
So she said, stop saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. So, but people come in, and we actually sell some Criminal Record shirts and stickers and things like that. People remember it. People come up to me all the time and say, "Are you the guy that had Criminal Records?" And I'm like, "How old were you when you came in there? You had to have been 2 years old." A lot of them would say, "Well, I came in there with my dad. My dad would bring me in there," and stuff, So, but it's nostalgic. It was a great run, and I enjoyed the record stores and stuff, and I was just like a kid in a candy store with all that. The same thing with the Mothman Museum and all that. I still enjoy the escape room that we created, the Mothman mini golf, and all that stuff. So it's always been fun to me. I don't think I've ever really worked a real job. maybe I did. I did for a while. So
people on the outside looking in probably think you're just never stop, but you never really realize you're busy.
No, well, I like to stay busy and stuff, but I taught graphic design for about 15 years at the same time as the museum and all that kind of stuff. But it just got to be too much,
Well, what started the everybody coming to you for the digital recordings, the original witnesses, the Mount Rushmores, that you got all their voices on tape there? What started that coming down, being in something?
That was I did that for the my second book, the one you held up a minute ago. I had recorded those just to keep an archive of a historical archive, and then Seth, I think, used a few of them in his stuff. And but I just recently, last July, interviewed Roger Scarberry and Connie Carpenter, who were really hard to get to people. I actually videotaped Connie's interview and stuff. So those will be. I'm working on a third book, if I can pull that off, and all that stuff will be in that third book. But that was a very unique chance to interview people that were there, when it happened and stuff. So those people are not getting any younger. Nope. So I think they wanted to come to me and say, "Hey, this is what really happened and everything." And I wasn't really surprised what they told me. So,
yeah, I think you're getting close to the end of when the original witnesses would probably be available.
Yeah. There's a few. I mean, some have passed. Well, a lot of the book that you've got there, I would say 80% of the people that I interviewed in that book, of course, that book came out in 2005. So, I mean, it's, I guess it's 20 years old.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I felt lucky that I was able to talk to those people and before, and get their side of the story. That's what I was out to do.
And that's just enough time from the event to make it not feel like you're trying to extort them or something like that. Some kind of
right, yeah. It's still fresh in their minds. I mean, they still relive a lot of that stuff and everything. And like with Connie Carpenter, I mean, I talked to her maybe 10, 12 years ago, and she told me point blank, she said, I will never, ever discuss any of my experience with that sighting. And then last year, she came to pay a visit to the museum, and she agreed to sit down and tell me her side of the story. Same with Roger Scarberry. So,
which one was Connie Carpenter? Why is that not on my note sheet? Because I know the
Connie
story.
Carpenter was actually Mary Hyre's niece, the newspaper reporter Mary Hyre. Connie Carpenter saw it about a few weeks after Linda Scarberry and Roger Scarberry up in the Mason, West Virginia golf course up there. That was in daylight. That was a daylight deal. And then she's the one that the men in black came and tried to pull her into the car.
That's it. Yes. She tried to drag her down the street.
Yeah. And she told me exactly what happened with that. And she also discussed her conjunctivitis, her eyes. She's the only witness that I've ever talked to or interviewed that had that, because she said that, immediately after she saw it, she had to go to the hospital. She said her eyes were hurting. They were, irritated really bad. And I think she said she had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days.
I got a giant Mothman cheat sheet over here, and I'm like, why is Connie Carpenter on this? Yes, she had the conjunctivitis, and she had the dream, didn't she?
I think Mary Hyre.
Mary Hyre had this. There was like 2 or 3 that had a dream. Mary Hyre being she was like the main one, the main dreamer.
Yeah, Mary Hyre was the newspaper reporter and that broke the story, But it's weird that Connie Carpenter was her niece.
Yeah, the conjunctivitis was a big deal.
Yeah, a lot of people ask about that, and she's the only one I've ever talked to that said that definitely she had that. And so it was interesting to get her take on it.
Has she ever said how quickly it's set on set? How quickly the conjunctivitis took effect?
She didn't say, but I still have questions that I'm asking her. I could ask her that.
Cause I don't know, like if you've ever welded and actually had conjunctivitis. Because I had before back in high school, I was in the FFA and welded. And I got it one night, and it took you like you go to sleep and it kind of like festers up like a burn. You wake up, you're like, holy shit, I can't see. I wonder if how quick it on.
As soon as she got home, that her eyes were irritated, and they took her to the hospital.
Because she, like the way she described it was just like a straight up brightest flash you could imagine.
Yeah, that's what she told me. She said it was, riveting. She couldn't almost wreck her car. She said I had to pull over the side of the road because it was, right beside of her car. So, have
you ever heard the Linda Sigmund story?
Yeah, I know.
I'm dropping her episode next week. She told me all of hers, and there's a lot of similarities between her story with seeing the craft, and the lights, and with the Marcella Bennett seeing the lights coming through the yard. Like it's almost the same blueprint
scenario. Yeah, the bright lights in the sky, and then they see something, Mothman, whatever, giant bird or whatever. But there's and her that I think hers was in the spring of '67, which would have been a few months later.
Linda's, It was just a few months before the actual event.
Well, no, Linda Sigmund, her sighting was in April of '67. The original sightings was in November of '66. So hers were a few months after.
The mallet was November '66. Yeah, that's right.
15th, 66.
Linda's
the Malletts still live in Point Pleasant. They're still married and still live in Point Pleasant.
Really?
And they will not talk to me. They admit to their family, from what I've heard, they admit that they did see it, but they just don't want the attention. They don't want to talk about it. With social media the way it is, and they have always shunned the attention and everything.
With all
maybe
those,
one talk.
Maybe, yeah, she's getting on up there too, I guess, with everybody else.
Who's that?
Right, Marcella's getting on up there in age as well.
Well, now Marcella Bennett, she passed away. Yeah, she passed away.
Okay, well, I guess she
passed away 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, you said Mallet. Never mind. I got them mixed up.
They're still alive. Yeah, they're still live here in Point Pleasant. Yeah.
I had the hardest time sorting out my Connies and my Mallets and my Bennetts when I started doing this.
Yeah, yeah. But
I think it's funny that the guy that wrote the movie combined all the characters into Connie. I said he's definitely read the book.
Yeah. When the police chief Connie or whatever.
Yeah, the sheriff or whatever.
Yeah, the sheriff. Yeah,
the cop.
Well, there was a woman sheriff in Point Pleasant, but
yeah.
But
they did a good job with that. Now, with all the recordings, and have you ever taken one? I'm sure you have that aren't public with no names. And what's the craziest one of those you've ever heard? That,
as far as the
like
ones
a witness testimony that somebody that didn't come out to public but told you. I don't know if that's
I've most all of the ones that I've interviewed, have came out in the public or whatever. They once my book came out, they were definitely public. People looked them up after that and everything, and they knew that was going to happen. So
I was wondering if there was any group that aren't public, just like, hey, don't tell anybody about this. But
there was a couple interviews that I had ready to go for that second book that at the very last minute changed their mind, and I never named them or anything. But it was actually 2 different ladies that had really close view type encounters and everything, and they just got cold feet. They told me they just didn't feel comfortable talking about it, and it just gave them a funny vibe and everything. So I said, well, one of them has passed away, the other one is still around and everything. But that's the same thing. That's the same thing Connie Carpenter told me too. And then she came and wanted to set the record straight with what happened with her.
Yeah, I guess they had to sit down, probably just like, if I tell this, my life's going to change.
Right.
Jeff's not going to know when I tell about it.
It did,
Yeah.
The thing is, I think I've been lucky because I don't really embellish anything that they tell me. Everything is word for word what they say.
Yeah.
And it goes into the book, and then that way people like you can look at it and read it and decide, well, I think there's something to it, or I don't. So I don't. I have no reason, or I don't want to take somebody's story and change it around in order to sell a book. There's not going to be anything embellished or anything or added to it. So I think that's why, people, like that type of a book, because they can read exactly what they told me and stuff.
I was very pleased about the format of the book. I didn't do any research into it before I bought it. I was like, it's just kind of like a scrapbook almost, a best of.
Right. The first one was Fact Behind the Legend. I don't know if you have that one or not.
No, I didn't get that one. I just got the most recent.
Okay. That one is actually more of a scrapbook because it has a lot of the newspaper clippings and the police reports and all that kind of stuff, that they filled out. And the second book came along, and I learned a few things from the first book. So I improved upon that, with the second book and everything. Of course, now the third book, I should have my act together as far as knowing what's going on with that.
When do you think that'll come out?
We're hoping next year.
That'll be good.
I've got so much stuff that I want to put in it, and I want to, make sure that I've got all the bases covered and stuff. I'm much more busier now than I was when I did the other 2 books. So
I used the Steve Ward book as my cliff notes on the whole thing.
Yeah. Did Steve tell you that he worked at the museum?
Mm-hmm.
The museum? Okay. I've known him for probably 20 years. He actually came to Point Pleasant in 1978 to research everything. This is way before all the, the media attention and stuff. And he lives here in Point Pleasant now, and he comes into the museum and as sort of like a tour guide, answers questions. And a lot of times, if I can't do a podcast or an interview or whatever, I'll say, hey, maybe talk to Steve. And, this is the first podcast that I've done for a long time.
Okay. I appreciate it. I was just reaching out. I'm like, maybe he'll come back to me. That's cool. I wouldn't care if it'd been your daughter. And
I try to do them as much as I can, but I get emails all the time and stuff. And so it's pretty neat, but I get a lot of emails and stuff.
I bet you do. I mean, everybody tries to start a podcast nowadays. It's just like shot in the dark. See who I can get, casting the widest net possible.
Yeah, we're actually working on a podcast from the museum. I've got a couple guys that are, working on that a little bit and stuff. So we'll see where that goes. I let them kind of handle all that stuff. So
I was shocked that you didn't have like a studio already built into it. I was like, I wonder what he uses. I mean, surely he does podcasts regularly. Live from
I've got a guy named Sheridan Cleveland who actually designed the cover for that book that you've got 20 years ago, and we've been in touch over the years and everything. And he's a computer social media guru type guy, and actually he's produced a few independent films and everything. But he's wanting to kind of launch the podcast, and I just sit down and meet with him, and then he tells me what he wants to do. So
do people still bring you artifacts into the museum and clippings and things that they've gathered?
They bring a lot of props and things that they've made, built. I bet people bring in old pictures of the Silver Bridge. They'll bring in old newspapers, things like that. Somebody, they'll create a Mothman statue or whatever. We get some really interesting stuff. People drop it off, and we try to display it in the museum if we can. Yeah,
I can't wait to come up there and see the stuff from the movies and the clippings and the little pictures of Steve's posts throughout the week.
We have a lot of movie props. Those were all donated back when we first opened the museum. One individual who lived in Katanning, Pennsylvania, that's where they filmed the movie. And he was just ate up with the whole Mothman story. He was buying everything he could. And he would bring the stuff to the early festivals, but then it got to the point where he couldn't make it every year. So finally he just said, hey, I'm donating this stuff to the museum.
That'd be like my wife telling me to get this stuff out of here. Like too much Mothman stuff in the house. She made me get rid of all my stadium cups from college. I can't imagine if I had Mothman things laying around.
For me here, it's KISS stuff. I have a massive collection and stuff, and my wife is like, when will this end? You're this age, you need, and I'm like, no, it will never end.
So you're twice as old as the band was when it broke up. You got to end it.
Pretty much, yeah. No, I started collecting that stuff probably when I was 15, and just a band that I've always liked, and have a lot of it in the Bunker 304 store. So if you get a chance,
museum,
it's like a little KISS museum. Yeah, just don't tell Gene that. So he'll want to charge admission.
Gonna have a spare ticket for the KISS museum. You should go out there and buy the power plant. Well, it's demolished. Put it out there.
Right.
It's a KISS museum. Now, one of the things I was wondering, are there any? And after talking to you for 30 minutes here, I realize you're not on that in the woo-woo section of it. I was going to see if there's any artifacts someone brought there that may have caused some kind of crazy haunting or strange happenings in the museum that they brought in, has an attachment. Not really. I mean, we haven't had any things like that happen or whatever. There's a few props here and there that's came up missing. So I don't know if it was somebody with sticky fingers that thought they would like the badge on the
mannequin from the movie, the Connie, you were talking about.
Yeah.
Her badge came up missing. We had that from the movie props. I think somebody just took it. There's a lot of stuff in there. We've crammed a lot of stuff into a small space, and my future goal is to expand that museum and make it twice as big. I'm working on the actual property of that and everything. So, but we'll see how that goes. Right now, we've got it jam packed.
Yeah, the pictures are amazing. I go through them, researching this, going through it a lot anyway. But the book focuses on. I always call it. I don't know why they called it anything to do with Mothman. Not saying it's not a moth or anything, but it's like 10% what they call the Mothman, and the rest is Men in Black. And
well, the Men in Black played a big part of the story, and that added to the mystique of it.
That's my favorite part.
And a lot of those witnesses, talked about Connie Carpenter, went into great detail about how one of them came to her house and her mother let this guy in. He said he was a newspaper reporter from the Washington Post. But Connie told me, she said, this is the strangest acting individual I've ever seen in my life. So she said, I don't think this guy was a reporter. I think he was either, with the so-called Men in Black. But yeah, people seen him in town. My mother actually remembered seeing him in town quite a bit, during that time. And I asked her where she saw them and where they were at. And she said they were always standing in front of Mary Hires' newspaper office, which would confirm what Mary Hire said, that they were coming into her office and nothing short than threatening her and saying, quit putting this stuff in the newspapers and things like that. So yeah, people didn't know if they were military or, government, whatever.
They were telling her to stop publishing. What is it going to take you to stop publishing?
Right. Yeah, they said you're just causing a lot of unneeded, panic. It's like that. And what's really ironic too is she died just 4 years later at a fairly young age. She was only 54 when she died of a heart attack. Yeah. So people thought that was a little odd. So
I remember thinking that myself, like, ooh, heart attack.
If she was around to answer a lot of these questions and stuff, but who knew back then, that we would be talking about it almost 60 years later.
Yeah, I really hate there wasn't anything at all done with them in the movie. And, me and Steve discussed it. It was, because Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones made a mockery of the whole thing, 4 years earlier.
Yeah. I don't know. Richard Hatem, the guy who wrote the screenplay for the Mothman Prophecies movie, is coming to the festival this year. He'll be there.
Is he really?
Yeah. So he's the one who took John Keel's book and adapted it to the movie. And I think what they wanted to do was to put a modern day spin on something that happened in the mid 60s. So
that took place in 02. The movie did, not 66 or 67, didn't it?
Right. Yeah. They changed a lot of the factual things. Like, for example, there were 46 people who died on the bridge. Yeah. I think in the movie it was 36 or 39 or something like that.
Yeah, 36. Connie the cop was 37, and she swam up and got away.
There was never a woman sheriff. Nobody ever died, here from seeing the Mothman stuff or whatever. But yeah, the movie opened up the floodgates. As soon as that movie come out, I knew what was going to happen, especially the Point Play.
When's your first book come out? Was it before the movie?
It came out right after the movie. Well, let's see. No, it came out before. It was 2001. Movie came out in 2002.
See, I thought it was. So you started kind of like you were before, and it caused like a rush of book sales.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet it did.
That book, we were working on that book, and then I caught wind that they were putting that movie out. So I was like, we need to get that book done, and
I bet
it would be perfectly timed with the release of the movie. So that was in 2001. The book came out. I think it was it November maybe, and then the movie came out like 2 months later.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that gets me is the what's his name, Gordy, who's supposed to be Woody Derenberger.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like
you mean in the movie?
Yeah, in the movie, like
Will Patton played him.
Yeah, Will Patton. I always called him the bootleg Robert Duvall, and he kind of looks like him. But I'm like, I wonder if Woody Darren. Well, I can't remember if he died before the movie came out, but like they kind of made him seem like he was insane, even though he wasn't. Killed himself in the woods.
What's kind of weird and funny about that is before they started shooting the movie, at that time I had Criminal Records, the record store. Mm-hmm. He came in on the way. He was, Will Patton. He was on his way to Tanning to film, and he came in the store. I wasn't there that day, and the guy that worked for me said, "Hey." Now he did come in when I was there, because my guy that worked for me came up and he said, "That's Will Patton," and I was like, I wasn't familiar with him or anything. He said, "That's the guy he played in Armageddon,
Green Mile."
What was the football movie that came out? I can't remember what it was called. Remember the Titans? Yeah, he was in that movie, and he's kind of one of them actors. He's not a major actor, but he's like you said, but he came in and we got to talking to him and everything, and they took him up to the TNT area and gave him a tour. He said he wanted to stop into town where it really happened. He was real nice,
Mm-hmm.
But that was right before they started filming that movie. But they portrayed him in the movie as seeing things in the mirror and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like the only mention or nod toward the Men in Black was that scene where Richard Gere shows up at his house at 3 a.m. and he's like, he was here the day before and the day before, every day this week. That's like the only.
They didn't run with the Men in Black stuff on that for some reason. I don't know why, but
had to be because of the movie, the Men in Black movie 5 years earlier or whatever.
It might have been. Everybody always kind of puts that together and everything. So,
God, that was such the best part of the book was the Men in Black series, the Men in Black portion, because they would come and mess with them and hang out. And there was the one guy with the blonde wig for some reason. I don't know what
fright wig or whatever. Yeah.
I keep calling him Max Headroom.
Yeah. John Keel talked a lot about the Men in Black.
Oh, he loved them.
Yeah, he up until he died, he was always looking over his shoulder. I would have conversations with him on the phone, and he would call. I mean, he came into the store, came to one of the first festivals, and I was lucky enough to be able to talk to him some. But he would call me at home once in a while, and we would talk about stuff. But he always thought that somebody was tapping my phone line, because he would always say, did somebody just pick up your other phone? And I'm like, no, I'm here by myself, or it's just my wife is here, and that's nothing. But he was very paranoid, He thought somebody was always listening in, even up to when he passed away. So kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, he did that thing where he traced his phone line down to the sewers.
He told me, he said he went and got the superintendent for the building that he lived in and had him showing where all the phone lines came in and stuff. He did tell me that, yeah.
I mean, I could, because that's kind of what I do for a living. I'm a network admin / engineer. So I'm thinking this dude's going in the comm closets and I'm just picturing where he was.
Probably he's been gone since what, 99, I think.
John Keel.
Yeah. In 99.
I almost think it was in the 2000s, but I could be wrong because I thought, maybe I'll get him to come on. I'm like, no, he's been dead for a while. You may be right. You probably know better than I do.
99. Maybe it was 2009.
Let me look. I have a phone right to him.
Oh, no, it was 2009 because he came to the festival in 2003. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, So he's been going for a while and stuff. So
I didn't realize when I first, long ago, 2002 or so, I didn't realize how long ago it had happened. Because I remember watching the movie in college. Like, what is this? It scared me to death.
Right. Yeah. that was a lot of people's first introduction to the Mothman stuff.
Hell, I'd never heard of West Virginia before. So,
yeah.
other than football,
the eyewitness accounts were a lot scarier, a lot more terrifying than what the movie was. So, there's always people, working on different projects, movies and things like that want to represent, the Men in Black and the Mothman, stuff like that. But, that movie, when it came out, it was kind of madness in Point Pleasant for a good while.
I bet it was, because that was out of nowhere and it was a hit.
Yeah. Yeah. People were calling at that time. I had the record store, and that phone rang constantly because they found out that I did that first book, and they traced it to there. So got to the point where we just had to take the phone off the hook there for about a couple of weeks,
Wasn't bad for business though, was it?
No. I mean, as far as people coming to visit Point Pleasant, that's still just bonkers all the time. I mean, they come from all over the world, to come to Point Pleasant. They want to see the museum and the statue and the festival and all that. So, and it's good. It's good for everybody downtown.
That poor statue looks nothing like what everybody said it looked like. That's the crazy part.
Well, Bob Roach, the guy who did that statue, and what he did is he went around to those witnesses while they were still alive and took their depositions as what they saw, how they described it, and then he combined all that into what he created and stuff. So, but that statue gets a lot of attention.
A lot of quarters.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there, and we have a live moth cam on that statue, 24/7 moth cam from the museum, and people can watch. There was a guy and a girl out there that he proposed her, to marry there a few weeks ago, and that kind of went viral right in front of the Mothman statue.
I think I saw that.
Yeah. So,
I think I followed the Mothman hashtag. I think it definitely popped up.
Oh yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago. They were in the museum. I talked to them, and then when I've seen the video and stuff, I thought, well, that's the same people I was talking to. So
there's worse places to do that.
Yeah, but no, they were real nice. It was their first time at Point Pleasant. They wanted to come to Point Pleasant and hang out and everything. So
that guy had that planned.
Yeah, he did.
It's going to be the most romantic thing ever.
Yeah, it's something they'll remember.
Yeah,
they've had a few weddings. People's done impromptu weddings in front of that statue, and you get on there at 3 a.m. and look, and the people's out there dancing around it and stuff. The cops have used the footage a few times to catch people that they're chasing. Locals and stuff. So
that's. Now I'm going to have moth cam on 24/7 now on a TV.
Every now and the police chief will say, "Can you look back on your footage at 4 a.m. on Tuesday evening? Because we were chasing a guy and he ran by the statue and we wanted to see who it was." So
end up with the Mothman as a deposition in court.
Right. Yeah, he got caught by the Mothman, the moth cam. Yeah.
Let me ask you this one. One of the questions I really wanted to get to was there anything in the movie that really gets your goat? Like that they take creative licenses? Was there anything that just like, why do they have to put that in there? I wish they changed that.
Well, I never really totally disagreed with them or anything. It's just like we said, the 46 people died on the bridge. It was never a woman sheriff. Nobody ever died. So it was loosely based on what really happened. I knew when that movie came out that it wasn't going to be a Jeepers Creepers type movie. You know what I mean?
Thank goodness.
And that's what a lot of people was wanting is more of a Jeepers Creepers type thing.
Yeah, it was.
So the Mothman Prophecies movie, I think, was more of a thinking type movie. It was more of a mental thriller. It wasn't a slasher type, attack the car and rip the hood off the car and all that stuff. You had to think about all the stuff. You have to watch that movie 2 or 3 times really to understand it.
I go to it a lot. It's like a feel good movie of the summer. Have you ever seen Dragonfly with Kevin Costner?
No, I remember when that came out.
Those two used to play like back to back in my apartment back in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, really?
And Dragonfly scared the heck out of me. Mothman scared me. and nothing violent ever happened in any of them. It was just, it was
the thought of the unknown, pretty much.
Dragonfly is closer. It's about a fella whose wife dies and just starts getting all these signs from the great beyond from his and seeing his wife and stuff, and dragonflies are everywhere. That was her symbol, like her tattoo on her chest or something. Okay. Yada, yada. But yeah, very similar feeling to Mothman. Really? But I remember those two, and just
that movie came out before the Mothman Prophecies.
I think they're in the same area. He's Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner's Dragonfly, Richard Gere's Mothman.
Okay. Yeah.
I got it for $1 at the video rental place when they were selling their old DVDs. My mom got it for me.
Well, they kind of went the way of the record stores, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. They're the same.
Technology has a way of creeping up on you.
Mm-hmm. So and making everything. I thought it was cool at first. Now it makes everything kind of lame.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you would have been right there where when the Napster and the LimeWire and all that.
I was born in '83.
Yeah, my daughter was born in '83.
I remember all the cool stuff, the Game Boys and the Nintendo 64, and then all of a sudden you could burn your own CDs, and then that turned into an iPod.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Kids would come into the store, and kid would come up there with a Metallica CD, and his buddy'd say, "Put it back. I'll burn you a copy of it."
Oh my God! See, it sounded cool back then.
Yeah, I knew right then that was the end of the ride, pretty much. So I went basically from music to monsters. That door opened up for the museum, and just went right into that. So that worked out pretty good. I keep thinking of these random movies that they never put on streaming, and you look on eBay for them, and it was like $170 for a DVD. I know. Same with albums. Mm-hmm. A lot of albums of bands, that were out of print, people pay like cassettes on eBay. I've seen a Blue Oyster Cult cassette going for $50, because they're just out of print. You can't. Mm-hmm. They didn't remake them or anything. Will Ferrell ruined that one for everybody. Yeah, but I'm sure they got some residual checks from that. I wanted to find Meteor Man on DVD, and it's $160. Is it? Wow. I'm like, why that movie? Why is it so expensive? Yeah, it was a classic. It's supply and demand, pretty much. You can't find that stuff, and they know it. So it's always been like that with music. Mm-hmm. Some of the real hard to find stuff, unreleased stuff. And they got a vinyl section at Target now. I'm like, that's cool. I grew up on vinyls, my dad's vinyls. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but who wants to pay $35 for an album anymore? Yeah, they can get it on Spotify. Well, that, but I remember buying albums for $7, $8. Of course, that's been a while back. Your dad would remember that too. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you remember whenever there would? This is weird. This conversation took a nosedive, but they used to take at Walmart. You would get it, and they took a bandsaw and cut a chunk out of the case, and they sold it for real cheap, like 99 cents. And they would call it defective, but I never understood. Like no one remembers that, but I remember buying several like that. Cutouts. Yeah. Is that what they're called? Yeah, they're cutouts because either the album just stopped selling and they had a surplus of them, mm-hmm. and they shipped the corner out. Yeah, they did CDs too. Yeah, I had the little piece cut out of it. CDs and tapes, and I would just get them for like birthday presents, like a stack of the coolest ones. Yeah, those were just overruns. You'd go to Kmart or you'd go to Walmart, whatever. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, they'd have a whole bin of just dollar albums that were just cut out. What they called them, cutouts and stuff. But just where they printed too many of them, mm-hmm. they had to get rid of them. So I'm not crazy. I told somebody that the other day, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "It used to be like a bandsaw. They cut a little notch out of them." And I don't think it was a bandsaw. I think it was just a handheld thing. They just clipped it with. Sometimes they cut the corners off of the album. Yeah. You just have it like angled. But on the CDs, they actually cut into the mm-hmm. case. It was like on the bottom, right above the hinge. Right. Yeah. They cut a little notch out. And the reason they did that is so the retailers couldn't send them back to get credit for them. What we would do every month, we would pull stuff that we didn't sell. We could send it back to our distributor, and they would give us credit for it if it wasn't selling. Okay. And then they'd send it back to the record labels, and they would do the cutouts and stuff. So that's why they did that. So, you couldn't take it back to the store and get full price for it. They know it was a cutout.
It's all making sense now. My daughter wanted physical media because she got a thrift store CD player.
Yeah.
And I took her to Walmart, and they had like 8 CDs.
I know.
and what dated me was I had most of them back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
I said, you ain't gonna believe this, but there used to be 4 or 5 bins right here with $1 CDs and $1 DVDs, and you just dig through them all day.
Yeah. Well, that's what the beauty of my stores were. We had the independent store feel. People come in and spend hours in there looking through everything, talking about music. It was a kind of a meeting place, but it's nothing lasts forever.
You didn't have the no stairway sign in the background like on Wayne's World?
No.
No stairway to heaven.
We had camera systems set up and 2-way mirrors and all that, but no stairways.
Well, Jeff, this has been fun. I'm glad you came on here. I've really enjoyed it.
Appreciate you having me. Like I said, I like to do them every now and then and stuff, and I wish I could do more, but
yeah, that's one thing.
I have to change. I think I had to change yours, didn't I?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We may have moved it earlier on.
Yeah, we did. I had to take my mom for a procedure and stuff, so I couldn't be here. But
yeah, I'm saving yours for the very last one, so it wasn't a problem.
Okay. Well, maybe you can make it to Point Pleasant and check out the museum, maybe the festival. That's in September 20th.
I think yours will air that weekend. I planned 100 days.
Okay.
And I ended up June 13th was 100 days to the festival. Ended up doing it 2 days later. So 100 days will land in that weekend. So it'll be, maybe I'll come up there and you'll remember me. I'm like, hey.
I'll remember you. Yeah. Okay.
All right. You have a good day. And
all right, you
say
too.
Stay warm, but it's hot now. So
yeah, it's hot. It's very hot here.
When I started this, it was wintertime, and I keep telling.
It's supposed to be pretty brutal this week here.
Yep. All right, man. Have a good day, and hopefully I can see you in September. Thank you very much.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Have a good one.